The Rebel Capitalist Show.
So going back to when you said the central banks, it's you kind of insinuated that it's their game plan to be the only game in town. So does that mean that you think there's kind of a conscious effort by the central banks to eliminate maybe the retail banks, or how do you see that end game playing out?
Well, I think how I see it is very easy. I look at the Federal Reserve mostly. Why? The Federal Reserve holds the world reserve currency, and I think that the Federal Reserve is determined to flood the world with dollars, solidify their own power. And again, the banks that run the Federal Reserve, this is a private institution here. The Wall Street banks, some other banks around the world run the Fed. I think this is kind of common knowledge here. And of course, they're going to consolidate power, have bigger banks eat up smaller banks. I mean, this is something that's been going on for a really, really long time. Too big to fail. Forget about that. There's no such thing anymore. So yeah, consolidation of power. And along with that, I fear that we're going to get a whole new set of rules. We're watching a terrible thing happen here in America, a merger of corporations and the new government philosophy.
Right.
And the definition of this is fascism. I mean, by definition. And they're going to squash whoever they got to squash to fulfill their end game. Look, the job of government is not to protect its people, it's to protect itself. And in this case, grow itself into some kind of a hideous monster. And that's what it's doing. So people don't understand that. People think, oh, the government's here to help me. Nothing could be further from the truth. The government is there to help itself, period. And I think once people get hip to that, the better off they're all going to be.
So when you were talking about the last place you want to be is the bond market, you see that as just the biggest bubble of all time. So I think the rebuttal to that some people would have would be, okay, well, Gregory, we understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, we think the Fed's going to come in and just peg the yield curve. They're just going to print up even more bank reserves to buy as many treasuries as they need to suppress those rates forever.
They're going to do that. They're going to try to do that. They are going to try to do that. And what's going to be the end result? The end result is going to be a falling dollar. They can keep printing and printing and printing, but they're going to do it. There's no doubt about it. And they're going to keep on doing it until, I think they destroy the dollar in its current form by design. And that's when they're going to come out and say, okay, guess what? The dollar is so weak right now. We're going to give you this. This is our solution for you. I think it's all by design for a new system, a whole new system, debt-based, unfortunately. They're not going to give away their power. Central banks' power resides in one thing: their ability to issue debt. They've fought wars. They continue to fight wars to establish the petrodollar system, the fiat monetary system. They will continue this. And they will slaughter whoever gets in their way. They have unbelievable power. And every day that the Federal Reserve is allowed to issue more debt or print a single more dollar or add a digit to a screen, they get stronger. I think that's a paradox a lot of people don't understand. People are like, oh, we're going to bankrupt the Fed by making them print more cash out of thin air and buy assets. Nothing could be further from the truth. They get stronger every day. They're allowed or called upon by a politician or whoever to issue more debt. They're more than happy to do it. I mean, look, you watch the mainstream media, you watch any of the financial channels, they got Fed president after Fed president coming out saying, we got more cash. How much do you need? They want to lend. They want to do that. They're creating slaves to their product. It's their product. It's incredible how we've been forced to transact in a product they made up, backed by nothing. It's incredible. But that's the situation we're in. The debt-based economic model, in my view, is a curse upon mankind. Because every developed nation on earth has the same twisted system. Are we prospering from it? Who's prospering from this? The banks sure are. And that gap that you were talking about before between the rich and the poor, I mean, it's been going on and getting worse every single year. Something I warned about over a decade ago. I said we're going back to a feudal system, a two-tier society, and it's here now. And it's going to get much worse, in my opinion.
So how do you see the social unrest playing out? Because you know as well as I do, the Fed's only game plan is to drop interest rates, print more money. Whatever they need to do, they give them a mandate for climate change, a mandate for gender equality and whatever mandate they
Whatever
have.
they come
It
up with.
always goes back to this, okay, well, we'll just drop interest rates and we'll just print more money. But we know that that exacerbates the problem because it just creates asset bubbles, and the people that own those assets get richer and they buy the McLaren or they get their PPP loan or whatever. And anyone that doesn't have access to that, like the Cantillon Effect, we go over that all the time, those people are going to be left out in the cold. And as asset prices go up, such as houses, they're not going to be able to afford it. You have more and more homeless. I mean, that at a certain point, we've seen it play out here lately, that creates a lot of social unrest. We have rioting, we have looting. What do you think the end game is there if they're just going to continue this game that just exacerbates the problem?
Mass pandemonium. I've been warning people now for the longest time that they can expect pandemonium to explode in the streets outside their house. I don't care where they live. They could be living in the richest neighborhood in the country. It's going to happen. But look, there's no doubt about that. We're already seeing that, like you just outlined here. But this we haven't seen. This is just the opening salvos here. It's about control. They want to, by design, create chaos, mass chaos at one particular time, only to come in and say, here's the new set of rules for you. Goes back to exactly what I said earlier, that a new set of rules is coming down the pike. In order to establish that, they have to have pandemonium break out in the streets. I used to say people will be eating each other in the streets. I think it could get to so bad where they have people out here, they can't feed their families, they can't feed themselves, they got a crying kid, whatever it might be. Look, and that's going to happen again, in my opinion. They're going to print, just like you said. They're going to destroy the dollar, just like you said. And then at one particular point here, when that debt market, this is all going to start, in my opinion, in the debt market. The stock market is a side effect to what's happening in the debt market. I look at the debt market to tell me where I believe the stock market's going to go. For example, today, stock market fell 400 points after being up like almost 200 earlier in the day. So the first thing I'm looking at, okay, Greg, what's going on with the 10-year yield? Is the 10-year yield dropping, which would tell me cash is going in? No. 10-year yield staying pretty stable. What's the dollar doing? Dollar is still weak. No knee jerk into the dollar. So, okay, 400 points sell up, 1.5% on the Dow, big freaking deal. If I would, on the other hand, say Dow falling, cash going into the debt market, yield coming down, dollar getting stronger, now you say, oh, hold on a minute. Maybe this is bigger. Maybe we're in the midst of something larger. Sure, that's how I look at it. But I believe sincerely, because the debt market is the monster of them all, the debt bubble, which has inflated everything, that's where the action is going to be. When we start seeing, and this isn't just me saying this, I've been saying this for a very, very long time, but now we got multi-billionaire hedge fund managers, a former Fed chair saying the real problem is in the debt market, and we have the potential to have a massive sell-off. When that happens again, pressure on the stock market melts down. People that are stuck in a 401k or an investment that only makes cash when stocks go up, they're going to get wiped out. 98% of these people are going to get wiped out. I have friends of mine who are so happy about the stock market. Greg, look at my 401k plan. I'm a millionaire. Look how much money I have here. Meanwhile, their house is mortgaged. They have 3 cars. They're all, paying loans off on. And I say to them, you don't have nothing. You think you're going to pull that money out of here? How are you going to get it out? Well, the market's not going to go down. It's going to keep going up. Really? Oh, okay. That's what happened last time. But this time, it's going to be much, much worse.
And what you're talking about there, too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most people, we'll call them the normal people, have this 401k, and they've got their portfolio set up in this 60-40 kind of risk parity. Yeah. And they don't understand that if you get a deleveraging, regardless of whether it's a deflationary deleveraging or what you're outlining, an inflationary deleveraging, where interest rates go through the roof, we have this inflation, but that spells disaster for the stock market because the rates are going up and everything's based on low interest rates, so stock values go down. So their entire portfolio is getting crushed because the bonds are plummeting in value. And at the same time, so are the stocks, where over the past 40 years, since we've been in this down cycle in interest rates, equities have gone up and bonds have gone up. So yeah, they're getting rich, but at some point you got to pay the fiddler. So I'm guessing you don't like that 60-40 split portfolio, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, if we had a normal environment, there are ways to look. I don't know. I personally think that the tried and true ways to make wealth they don't make sense today in this environment. In this environment, they don't make sense to me. Henceforth, why I don't own a single stock. I don't own a single stock right now. I'm sitting back here. I'm just trading. And I'm ready for this thing to flip around at any moment. I don't know when that's going to happen. I think it's got a while to go. I'll be honest. I think the Fed's going to continue to inflate, just like we spoke about, print more cash out of thin air, keep rates suppressed. That's massively bullish for the stock market. More bailouts are coming down the pike here. It's an incredible situation that we're in, and it's unfortunately very negative for whatever's left of the middle class. But the rich are going to do great in this environment. The well-off are going to do really well in this environment. And I just tell people, if you have any spare capital at the end of the month, pick yourself up an ounce of silver. That would be my best bet, to tell them to do that, or advise them, at least in my opinion, that's what they should do.